welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Katharine, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my July TBR or to be read list. So I have 5 books on this list, one of which is a classic book, one of which is a nonfiction book because I'm trying to read one nonfiction and one classic per month for this year. And then the other 3 are just sort of like a free-for-all. And also some of those like free-for-all books count towards like even my classic book counts towards like my summer reading challenge that I'm doing for myself. So let me go ahead and share with you first the nonfiction. I'm pretty sure this is considered nonfiction. It is The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Essentially, this is like a different type of nonfiction if it is considered nonfiction. It's like these series of letters written between like the devil and one of his like cousins, I guess, or nephews, something like that. So he's like a demon. So it's like between the devil and one of his demons. And I'm considering this nonfiction because it's almost like apologetics in a sense, and it is by C.S. Lewis, and he is known for writing like Christian living type nonfiction books. So I'm gonna read this in the month of July. I'm really excited to get to this. I have read a few other C.S. Lewis books, and I wasn't like a big fan of his writing just because he tends to write like very like textbook-ish. Like I don't know how else to describe it other than that, like just very dry and clinical and like boring and dull in my eyes, at least. I know a lot of people love C.S. Lewis's writing, but I personally just like am not a big fan. I think it also is due to the fact that like C.S. Lewis is or was a professor at Oxford, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, please leave it down in the comments down below. I know he was a professor at a university in England. I'm pretty sure it's Oxford, but if it was another university, please let me know in the comments down below. But I think that's the reason why he writes the way that he does. But I'm just not a big fan of the way in which he does write, just because it does come off very textbook-ish. There hasn't been anything in his books that I have disagreed with. I definitely agree with all of what he says in them, but it's just like the way in which he writes doesn't really resonate with me. I also rate like my Christian like living nonfiction type books on a scale in which like how much knowledge or wisdom I gain out of it, if that makes sense. And a lot of what he writes, like I already know that stuff, so that's part of the reason why I don't really rate his books very highly. But I heard this is one of his better books, The Screwtape Letters by him, because it is written a little bit differently, so hopefully I connect more to this book and learn more out of it than I have with his other books. And then the classic that I am planning on reading is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button by F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's also like other like jazz age stories in this as well. I'm gonna probably read the whole thing, but I'm particularly interested in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I watched the movie actually like years ago when I was like in middle school-ish time, or even high school maybe, and I really enjoyed it. And I realized that it's actually based on a book by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read The Great Gatsby by him when I was in high school. I was assigned to read it in high school, so I'm really glad that I'm able to read this, especially since I've watched the movie and enjoyed it. And this is also going towards one of my prompts for my summer reading challenge. I have a few prompts that this is fulfilling, so I'm happy to be reading this. For those who don't know, like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is about this person, I guess, who's born like as an old man. So like as he progressively like gets older, he also gets younger at the same time. I don't know how else to describe that. Like he's basically born as an old man, and then like as he gets older, he also becomes younger and younger, like the way he looks, if that makes sense. So by the time he, unfortunately, we all know he's gonna pass away by the end of the book. But anyway, that's not a spoiler. But by the end, by like the time he dies, he's actually like a boy. or like a baby, I guess. Like he looks like a baby or a young boy. So yeah, I'm really interested to actually read this book or this story. I don't even think it's considered an actual book. I think it's just considered a story because it's so short. But yeah, excited to get to this, and it's considered my classic for this month. And then on to the next book. This is like one of my free-for-all books, my wildcard books I like to add as well. This will also fulfill like another few prompts like in the summer reading challenge that I'm doing for myself. This is called Gone with the Whisker by Lori Cass, and this is part of the, what series is this? It's called a book mobile cat mystery. That's the series, I guess, the mystery series that it's a part of. But from what I understand, this takes place like during the 4th of July, during like the actual day of 4th of July, and that's why you see like this little like bookmobile that like is red, white, and blue with some stars on it. There's some fireworks in the background, and it obviously has a cat on it because there's a cat in the book, and it's like a mystery book. I've always wanted to read like cozy mysteries, and this is like considered a cozy mystery. This is pretty beat up, as you can see. Like even like a corner of the cover page is like torn off because I got this from eBay. I didn't really like have an official picture of it before I bought it. I kind of just bought it because it was at a good price, and then I got it in the mail and it was pretty beat up. Anyways, I don't foresee myself like even like keeping this for a long time. I might bring it to a little free library after I'm done reading it, but I do like having physical books on my bookshelf as I'm reading them, so that's why I got it. But as you can imagine, this is just like a cozy mystery like based on the 4th of July. There's a cat, there's like a mobile book like mobile where this woman like sells books out of this like book truck type thing, and it says that, let's see here, this main female character, I should say, her name is Katrina, discovers a body during like the fireworks display during the 4th of July. So it basically goes from there. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. It should be a fun read. The next book that I'm going to read is going to be something that is also going to fulfill a few prompts in my like summer reading challenge thing that I'm doing for myself, and that is Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Riley Pearson. This is actually going to be a, wow, I just hit myself. This is actually going to be a reread for me because I did read this in the 5th grade. Like, I actually didn't read it, like my 5th grade teacher read it to us during like reading time. Like we would all circle around her and she read this to us in class. And I remember really enjoying it, but like because I was in the 5th grade, I don't really remember all too much about this. And I thought this would be like a really cute like fairy tale type retelling to read during the summer. And I always like to read those types of books during the summer, like romances, like fairy tale sort of retellings. So this should be like a very fun thing. As you can clearly guess, this is like a fairy tale retelling of Peter Pan. So this should be a really fun book to get to in July, and it really is a fun light read because it is a middle grade, so it should be easy to get through. And the last book that is actually like my true like wild card free-for-all book, because it's not a part of like my summer reading challenge. This is just like something I genuinely just want to read during the month of July. It's called The Tea Chest by Heidi Chivaroli. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly because I think that's how it was told to me how to pronounce it. I bought this at a local like Christian bookstore, and apparently Heidi Chivaroli is a local author to me. She like lives in New England, so I'm excited to read this. This is essentially like a dual timeline. It takes place in Boston, and it switches timelines between 1773 and present day, and it follows like two women. One is Emma, who is living in 1773, and she basically is in love with a patriot, and his name is Noah, and he basically wants to revolt against the British. And her father actually promised her to marry someone else who is a loyalist, and her father is also a loyalist too, so it works out that way. But Emma is basically like at the Boston Tea Party. There's like a scene with the Boston Tea Party, which is cool. And basically like Samuel, the guy who she's promised to marry from her father, like who's a loyalist, sees her there with like the love of her life, that Noah guy that I was talking about, and blackmails her. And basically, like, it's this whole situation of like blackmailing and like getting freedom from the British and all that. And then it switches to present day, like I mentioned. It's still in Boston, and it follows Lieutenant Haley Ashworth. And she's a Navy SEAL, and she basically finds this like tea chest with like hidden documents, and she like has to like discover like what all of these like documents are about. So that should be really interesting. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, from what it hints at, like their two timelines like connect in some way. So I'm really excited to get to this. First of all, the reason why I'm excited to get to this is because July is the 4th of July. It has the 4th of July in July. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The 4th of July takes place in July. Duh. Anyways, that's the first reason why I wanted to read this book, because this is about like the Revolutionary War. And for the 4th of July, for those who don't know, is like one of my favorite holidays of like all time. And also it takes place in Boston. So that's like where I'm from. Like, I'm from Massachusetts, and Boston is like our capital of the state. So this should be really awesome to get to. And I heard that Heidi Chiavaroli oftentimes visits the bookstore that I got this from, because she is a local author. So maybe I could get this signed possibly if she ever does like an author event there. But yeah, those are the 5 books that I plan on reading in the month of July. I'm really excited to get to them. These books are about to fall over, so I'm gonna actually move these. But anyways, do all the YouTube things that you know how to do. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!